What's going on, Steel Gang? It's your boy Steel Curtain here, and welcome to another YouTube video. Today I have a bit of a different video for you guys, a little bit different from our normal gameplay videos. Today we're going to be taking a look at the best graphics settings to be using in the new Call of Duty Vanguard. With the release of a new game, sometimes it's always hard to figure out which settings are going to give you the best FPS. So I'm here to help you guys today and get you that good, crispy FPS in COD Vanguard. Before we get started, if you guys aren't already subscribed, make sure you hit that sub button down below and that notification bell to be notified every single time I post. But without further ado, let's get right into it. Alrighty guys, first things first, I know you might notice my webcam is now on the right side of my screen. For those of you guys that watch my videos often or, are in my streams, you usually see the webcam on the left side of the screen. But just for today's video, we're going to be having it on the right side so that you guys can see all the things that are going on my monitor. Alrighty guys, first things first, we're going to look at the task manager. This is less of a graphic setting, but more of a overall setting that can help you with your FPS in Vanguard. So what you want to do, open up task manager, head over to details. Once this loads, you can scroll down until you find something that says Vanguard.exe. Once you find that, you're going to right click, go to set priority, and make sure that's set to either high or above normal. What this basically does is it gives Vanguard, the application of Vanguard, a higher priority in your system over other background processes or other applications that are running at the same time. That way that when the game is running, it's not prioritizing something that's just completely on the side. It's gives its full priority and its most attention to the game Vanguard, so most of your hardware is being used to run the game. It can help you with your FPS. If you're on a high-end system, I would say you're fine on high. If you're struggling on high for whatever reason, just lower it down to above normal and you'll be okay. Alright, moving on. So now this is where we're going to get into the nitty-gritty of the actual Vanguard graphics settings. So what we're going to do is we're going to go over to the settings, we're going to go over to graphics, and we're going to start on the display section. Beginning, we're going to be starting off with the display mode. For you guys, if you're looking to get the most FPS and the most performance, what you want to do is set this to full screen. For me, I have a pretty solid PC, and I'm also a streamer, obviously. So I run on full screen borderless, just so it's a little bit easier for me to tab out of the game. But if you're looking for the most FPS, I would put it on full screen. Then from there, make sure your display resolution is set to what your monitor resolution is. So mine is 1920 by 1080. It auto sets. Make sure your monitor is set to the correct monitor. That should also be something that's defaultly displayed. Then from there, refresh rate. If you have a 144 hertz monitor or a 240 hertz monitor or whatever kind of refresh rate monitor, make sure it's set to the highest refresh rate you possibly have. Mine is 240, so it's already set and we're good to go. Then from there, VSync. Anything in any game, if you want FPS to be higher, just turn off VSync. So here, off for VSync gameplay, VSync menus. Then from there, frame rate. Some people like to cap their frames depending on, certain things. But for me, I think just keep it unlimited. It just keeps your frames uncapped. It'll let you get the highest possible FPS you can possibly get, and that's the best way to go. Aspect ratio, you're going to keep that on automatic. This is just something that decides your aspect ratio based on the size of your monitor. Not that big of a deal. Display gamma, leave that on default, whatever it is, 2.2. Focus mode. Focus mode you're going to keep to off. It's definitely, this is a setting that's a little bit different, something I really haven't seen, but I think it's just something you can keep to off. It's really not that big of a deal. If it's something that's useful to you, maybe turn it on, but for me, keep that off. Display adapter, make sure it's set to whatever dedicated GPU you have on your system. Mine's RTX 2080, so that's what I have it set to. And then we're good on the display settings tab. Moving on to quality. This is a big one. For me, if you're trying to get the most FPS, you're going to want to turn down a ton of your settings. So beginning off, quality presets, it's going to be a custom preset. I mean, you can mess around with these if you want, lowest, low, whatever. But I like keeping mine on a custom preset just so that I can, decide what I want to change in each and every setting. But from there, we're going to go to render resolution. Render resolution, this is a sneaky one because sometimes this setting, render resolution, gets reset. Make sure it's set to 100. You always want your render resolution on 100 just so that it matches your display resolution. If you have a super low end system, something that's struggling to run the game, you can lower your render resolution a bit to help get more FPS. But if you're on a solid system that doesn't really need to do that, keep it on 100 so that it matches your display resolution and you'll be good to go. From there, dynamic resolution, you're going to want to keep that to off. Moving down to details and textures. Now, I keep mine on most, if there's a low or lowest setting, I keep it on low just because I don't really need to go lowest. It probably makes barely of a difference. But I'll just go through what my settings are to give you guys the best FPS. So first, texture resolution. We're going to keep that on low. Texture filter anisotropic, we're going to keep that on low. Particle quality level, we're going to keep that on low. Particle resolution, low. Bullet impact and sprays. If you're really struggling for frames, you could turn this off. I like to be able to see the sprays in game, so I keep them on. But that's totally up to you what you want to do. It won't make too much of a difference, so you can keep it on or off, up to you. Shader quality, you want to keep that on low. Tessellation, I keep it on nearby only. You could turn that off completely as well. It's not going to make too much of a difference, but I like nearby only on that one. Moving on. Level of detail, distance, range. We're going to keep that on short. Nearby level of detail, low. Distant level detail, low. Clutter draw distance, low. And volumetric quality level on low. That will do it for the details and textures. It's mostly just all low. The game, believe it or not, still looks great even with high or low settings, which means it's very well optimized. So don't be afraid to turn your settings down on low just to get that extra FPS in game. Moving on to shadows and lighting, this is another important one. Almost just as important as details and textures, but first we have screen space shadows. We're going to keep that to off. You don't really want... Shadows are really nothing that are important. If anything, it makes that a disadvantage. So keep that off. Shadow map resolution, very low. Sun shadow cascades, we're going to keep that on low. Cache sun shadows, off. Cache spot shadows, off. Spot cache size, very low. Spot shadow quality, low. Particle lighting, low. Ambient occlusion, off. And screen space reflection, off. That's another big one. Make sure that that one's off, because any type of reflections in game, any setting that has high reflections or high quality reflections is going to give more of an impact onto your FPS. Moving on, we have NVIDIA, the NVIDIA DLSS. This is another setting where if you're really, and I mean really, struggling for frames, you might want to turn this on and find which one is best for you, whether it be performance, balanced, or quality. But if you have a solid system and you don't have to worry about something like that, your best bet is to keep this to off, because sometimes when you turn on DLSS, your game will become a little bit blurry and it's not something you really want to see. So for me, DLSS is off. You're better off without it sometimes, and I think in this scenario it's the same. For the super resolution, you're going to keep that to off. For the I can't even pronounce this word. I'm not even gonna try to pronounce that before you guys make fun of me in the comments. So we're just gonna keep this to off. I'll just call it the CAS, the CAS, off. Anti-aliasing, we're gonna keep this to SMAA T2X. And then for the quality, just make that low. You won't really notice that much of a difference with the anti-aliasing in this game, at least from what I've noticed. So yeah, you're gonna want to do that. Keep that on SMA T2X and low. Moving on from there, we're gonna go to depth of field. What depth of field is, if you guys didn't know, is a setting where when you aim down sights, if you have it turned on, the ambience around you will turn a little bit blurry. If you have it off, that won't happen. Personally, I think it's a bit of a disadvantage to have that on. So I just keep it off. If you want more of a cinematic experience, however, depth of field on might be the way to go for you. And then finally, under the advanced section, your VRAM usage target. Now, this could vary per system and per like different type of GPU that you guys have. For me, if you can give it a shot at 90%, go ahead. See how that works for you. If you're experiencing a lot of stutters in game or something like that, you might want to turn it down a little bit. But besides that, give it a shot at 90. It just varies per system, so it's really hard for me to give you an exact setting to use. But yeah, see what works for you with this setting. Try on 90. If your game feels weird, just lower it from there until it feels normal, and you should be good to go. And then finally, we're going to move on to the gameplay setting. This really isn't anything crazy here on this setting, this set of settings. This is kind of self-explanatory. Field of view. If you're on PC, or even if you're on console, even though this video doesn't apply to console players, you're going to want to be on 120 FOV. It gives you the most field of view, the most wide range of view that you can get while in game. So I personally like it. If you're this is another setting where if you're really struggling for frames, you might want to lower it a bit, because the more you have, the more FOV you have, the higher FOV you have, the more things you have to technically load in or render, or your PC has to render. So having higher FOV could hurt your FPS, but it's definitely something that is useful competitively, and you would want to use that. Then moving on, underneath field of view. This isn't really a graphics setting, but it's an important setting. You're going to want to have this set to affected. This setting basically makes it so that your gun, when you ADS, when you aim down sights, especially on higher FOV, it doesn't zoom in to what it would be at, you know, a lesser FOV. So it stays with your 120, basically in turn giving you a visual perspective that makes it look like you have a ton less recoil. This is a very important setting. If you don't have your ADS field of view on affected, make sure you guys turn that on. It is extremely important. Moving on, for camera movement, you know, nobody likes camera shake or any type of camera movement. You can't aim, you can't see, you can't do anything once that's happening. Now this won't completely get rid of it, but you're gonna want to put this down to 50%. It just helps with any camera intensity, camera shaking when there's big explosions in game, and it could help not only with FPS but also just with your overall sanity when you're playing the video game. Moving on, motion blur for your weapon and motion blur for your world, both of these turn off. So many people, sometimes I see with this setting on, it just like blows my mind, because motion blur is something that not only hurts your FPS, but it really is a big disadvantage, because you can't, it blurs the world around you. You can't see what's going on. So make sure that motion blur is turned off. Unless you're really looking for a cinematic experience, I think that setting is totally useless. Put it to off. And finally, last but not least, the NVIDIA Reflex Low Latency. If you have a NVIDIA GPU, this is a good setting to take a look at. Basically, you have three options. You have off, you have on, and you have on plus boost. Try on plus boost, because this could net you the most the most FPS increase. If your game is feeling a little bit unstable, it's stuttering, whatnot, try to lower it to on. And if you still can't run it and it feels weird, just shut it off. But if you have a good system, a high-end system or a medium-end system, putting it to on plus boost shouldn't give you any issues. It should only really help you, and should be a setting that you turn on just to help with your FPS in game. That's gonna wrap it up for today's video, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure you guys hit that like button. If it helped you out with your FPS, let me know in the comments down below. Also, let me know what other kind of maybe settings videos you guys would like me to do. If you guys aren't already subscribed, hit that sub button. If you guys want to get notified every time that I post, hit that little bell next to the sub button. But for now, that's going to end it here for today. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out, guys.